The galaxy was not as empty as it seemed. From the farthest edges of space, faint signals traveled across the darkness, carrying voices that were desperate, weak, and trembling. Entire civilizations had been broken. Planets that once shone with life were now ghostly shells. Oceans boiled into clouds of ash. Forests had vanished, and cities lay in ruin. The beings who survived these disasters cried out, hoping, praying that someone, anyone, would come. On the planet Eldara, the Eldari, tall, fragile, blue-skinned beings with eyes like liquid silver, stood among the wreckage of their great cities. Their crystal towers, once glowing with the light of 1,000 suns, now lay shattered on the ground. Eldari children held the hands of their parents, too young to understand the horrors they had seen, but old enough to know that something was terribly wrong. Mothers whispered prayers over broken bodies. Fathers tried to hide their fear behind stiff, trembling shoulders. In the ruins of Eldara's capital, the Eldari's council chamber still stood. Its roof had collapsed in places, sunlight spilling onto the cracked floor, painting long shadows. From there, the Eldari leaders sent their message into the void, hoping that beyond the endless stars someone could hear them. Their voices were weak but filled with meaning, transmitted across space in a signal that no one could mistake for idle noise. Somewhere out there, someone strong. Please hear us, they whispered. We cannot survive alone. For centuries, countless alien civilizations had tried to reach others for help, only to find silence. The galaxy had grown cold. War machines from ancient civilizations moved like shadows, destroying everything in their path. No one dared oppose them. No one answered the cries. Until now, on a small blue planet far removed from the Eldari's suffering, humans looked up at the night sky. They had their own struggles, poverty, war, illness, but they were alive. And unlike many species, humans never stopped looking outward. They gazed at the stars with wonder, asking questions about what lay beyond, dreaming about what could be. Captain Amina Reyes sat in her small observatory, a simple room cluttered with instruments and papers, yet filled with the faint hum of curiosity. Her grandfather had told her stories of explorers, of humans venturing into the unknown. She had listened as a child, imagining herself among the stars, dreaming of worlds no human had ever seen. And tonight, as she scanned the sky, something strange caught her attention. A faint signal almost too soft to notice. It pulsed with a rhythm, a pattern of tones that felt alive. Amina leaned closer. The signal carried fear, sorrow, and hope. It was a voice, but not a voice like her own. It was an alien voice crying out for help across unimaginable distances. Her heart raced. She had never believed in miracles, but what she heard now felt like one. She called her team together, her hands shaking with excitement and fear. Scientists crowded around the instruments, eyes wide as they tried to decode the signal. The room was filled with a mixture of tension and wonder. This is real, one scientist whispered, voice trembling. It's a call for help. From outside our galaxy. Amina nodded, feeling a weight settle on her shoulders. Humans were not a large or powerful species by galactic standards. Their ships were small, their weapons primitive. But humans had something no one else seemed to have, a relentless determination, a stubborn refusal to give up. We have to go, she said, her voice firm. Somewhere out there someone needs us. We can't ignore this. Her team looked at her, eyes filled with doubt and hope. Traveling across the stars to a world they had never seen, to help beings they had never met, was dangerous. Many of them would not survive. But the call could not be ignored. Humanity had always risen to challenges, no matter how impossible they seemed. As the Horizon, a small but swift exploration vessel, prepared for launch, Amina felt a strange mixture of fear and exhilaration. The engines hummed with energy, ready to break through the limits of their tiny planet and reach across the void. Somewhere in that darkness, countless beings were waiting, praying that someone would answer. And for the first time in generations, hope flickered across the galaxy. The Eldari, watching the stars from the ruins of their home, did not know who was coming. They did not know the shape, the color, or the form of the saviors who would answer their call. They only knew that a response had finally come. Across light years, across endless darkness, someone had heard them. And on the bridge of the horizon, Captain Amina Reyes whispered to herself, as if to the stars themselves, "We are coming. Hold on. We won't let you fall." Somewhere between despair and hope, between silence and action, the galaxy waited. And for the first time in centuries, it waited for humans. The signal pulsed steadily through space, faint but insistent, like a heartbeat echoing across the void. Captain Amina Reyes sat on the bridge of the horizon, her eyes fixed on the screen that displayed the alien message. Every pattern, every vibration felt alive. It carried fear, sorrow, and a desperate plea for help. She could feel it deep in her chest, a pull she could not ignore. The room was quiet except for the low hum of the ship's engines. Her crew looked at the monitors with awe and apprehension. Scientists murmured to each other, trying to make sense of the signal, while engineers checked the ship's systems for the long journey ahead. Dr. Leo Hahn, the lead linguist, leaned forward. "Captain, I've never seen anything like this. The language structure is emotional. It's not just words, it's feelings." He swallowed hard. "They're crying out. And it feels like they know someone will come." Amina felt a shiver run down her spine. She had trained her whole life for exploration, for discovery, but this was different. This was not about curiosity or science. This was about life itself. Somewhere out there, someone needed humans, and humans had a chance to answer. "We will go," she said firmly, her voice steady despite the tremor in her heart. "Plot a course. We leave in 1 hour." The crew moved quickly, driven by purpose. There was fear, yes, but also an energy that came from knowing they were about to do something no human had done before. They were going to cross light years into the unknown, to save lives that were not their own. As the ship prepared to leave orbit, Amina stood at the observation window, staring at the blue planet shrinking beneath her. She thought of the humans on Earth, millions of people who would never know of this journey, who would never see the stars as she did now. And yet their existence, their resilience had made this possible. Humanity's stubbornness, their ability to endure, had brought them to this moment. The horizon jumped into faster-than-light travel, streaking across the galaxy toward the source of the signal. Days and nights passed in the blink of an eye. Amina and her crew monitored the signal, noting changes, bursts of intensity, almost as if the Eldari, or whoever they were, could feel them coming. "Captain," Dr. Hahn said one evening, pointing to a spike in the transmission. "Look, they're reacting. The signal is stronger now. It's like they can sense us getting closer." Amina's heart lifted. "Then we're on the right path. Keep monitoring. We need to know what awaits us." For the crew, the journey was filled with uncertainty. They knew nothing of the Eldari or the enemies who had destroyed their worlds. They only knew the cry for help, and they knew that they could not turn back. Fear crept in at times, whispering of failure, of ships lost and lives ended. But every time it surfaced, Amina reminded herself and her crew, they were humans. If anyone could face the impossible, it was them. During a rare moment of quiet, Amina spoke to the crew in the ship's common room. "We are not going there to conquer or to dominate. We go because someone is suffering and we can help. That is what makes us human. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the choice to act despite it. And that is exactly what we will do." Her words resonated. The crew nodded, feeling a bond not just with each other but with every being in the galaxy who had cried out and received no answer. Humanity would answer. They would be the light in the darkness. As the horizon neared the Eldari system, the signals grew clearer, more urgent. The crew could now see glimpses of what had happened. The ruins of cities, the scars on planets, the traces of despair in every signal. And yet amid all the destruction there was hope. The Eldari, or whoever they were, had not given up entirely. They had reached out across unimaginable distances and humanity had heard them. Amina stood on the observation deck, her hand resting lightly on the railing. She whispered to the stars, "We are coming. You are not alone anymore." At that moment, the crew felt something shift. Fear was still there, but it was joined by a sense of purpose, a sense that they were part of something far greater than themselves. They were not just humans traveling across space. They were humanity, the first to answer a cry that had echoed for centuries. Somewhere in the galaxy, across the void, countless eyes looked up from ruined planets. They could not see the ship yet, but they could feel the presence of someone coming. They did not know who would arrive, what form it would take, or what courage it would bring, but they sensed hope. And hope, once sparked, could not be extinguished. The horizon moved steadily, carrying humanity across the dark expanse, toward a destiny that would change not just their lives but the fate of the galaxy itself. The stars stretched out ahead, countless and bright, And Amina knew that for the first time in centuries, the galaxy had a chance to survive. Humanity was coming. And when they arrived, they would bring not just strength, but hope, courage, and the stubborn, unyielding heart of a species that refused to give up. The horizon slipped out of faster-than-light travel, the stars slowly returning to points of light as space stretched before them. Captain Amina Reyes felt her pulse quicken. The Eldari system lay ahead, a cluster of planets scarred by war and destruction. From orbit, the devastation was impossible to ignore. Cities had been reduced to ash. Oceans glowed with chemicals from burning industries. Forests were nothing but skeletal remains. Smoke rose like gray rivers painting the skies with grief. Amina swallowed hard. She had seen poverty and disaster on Earth, but this was a pain that stretched across entire worlds. And yet amid the devastation, she saw signs of life. Tiny signals of resistance, faint but alive, flickered from the planet below. The Eldari had not given up entirely. Their species had survived, and now humanity had come. The crew moved quickly, following Amina's orders with practiced precision. Sensors scanned the planet for survivors. Communications tried to connect to any remaining Eldari outposts. Every moment felt heavy with anticipation. "Captain," Dr. Leo Han said, voice tense but excited, "we're picking up life signs. Multiple readings across the surface. They're waiting for us." Amina nodded, her hands tightening around the edge of the observation console. "Prepare a landing team. We go down carefully. Remember, we are here to help, not to interfere. Protect them first, always." The landing was tense. The shuttle descended through ash-filled skies, navigating around ruined towers and crumbling bridges. From the windows, the crew could see the Eldari, fragile figures moving cautiously across broken streets, eyes wide with fear and hope. Children clung to their parents, staring at the approaching ship as if it were a miracle. When the shuttle touched down, a hush fell over the ruins. The Eldari did not run. They did not hide. They simply watched, trembling. Then, as the ramp lowered, Captain Amina stepped forward. Her uniform was simple, her hands raised in peace. "We received your call," she said, her voice carrying through the eerie silence. "We are here to help. You are not alone." For a moment, nothing happened. Then an Eldari elder stepped forward, his body bent and frail, eyes shimmering with unshed tears. You heard us," he whispered, his voice cracking. "We thought no one would come." Amina nodded gently. "We are here now, and we will not leave until you are safe." The Eldari did not fully understand what they were seeing. Humans were strange in appearance, smaller and less powerful than some species they had known. Yet there was a strength in them that no weapon could measure. A courage, a determination, a willingness to face the unknown and risk everything to save others. It was unlike anything the Eldari had seen before. The elder's voice shook as he spoke again. "The war machines, they are still out there. They will return if we are not ready. Can you help us?" Amina's eyes hardened with resolve. "We can. We will fight with you. We will show them that life, hope, and courage are stronger than fear." The humans moved swiftly. Engineers examined the ruins, looking for ways to stabilize buildings and protect survivors. Medics tended to the injured, moving carefully through the streets, their presence a balm on terrified souls. And soldiers, trained for exploration and defense, began assessing the remnants of the enemy forces that had devastated the system. As the humans worked, the Eldari began to speak more freely. They shared stories of their cities, of the beauty that had existed before the war, of the lives that had been lost. And through it all, the humans listened, offering comfort, nodding with empathy and making promises they intended to keep. In one broken plaza, a human medic knelt beside a small Eldari child, gently holding the alien's hand. "You're safe now," she said softly. The child looked up, eyes wide and shimmering, and whispered, "You came for us." "Yes," the medic said. "We came for you." Across the system, more humans landed, moving in coordinated teams. Sensors scanned for remaining threats. Communication networks were repaired. Supplies were shared, and everywhere the Eldari watched in awe. This species, small, fragile, and untested in galactic warfare, had arrived to stand against the darkness that had destroyed their worlds. Captain Amina stood once more at the edge of the plaza, looking up at the skies. She knew the coming days would not be easy. The remnants of the enemy fleet were still out there, hidden among the stars, waiting for an opportunity. But humanity had arrived, and with them came hope, courage and a determination that even the darkest forces could not ignore. The Eldari began to whisper among themselves, words of disbelief and awe. They are different, one said. They are not like any who have come before. Amina turned to her crew, her eyes shining with quiet fire. Then let us show them what humanity can do. Somewhere in the shattered cities, a new hope began to grow. The first contact had been made, not with fear, but with trust. And the galaxy, for the first time in generations, began to believe that survival might be possible. The sky over Eldara was dark and heavy, filled with smoke and ash, but beneath it, a new light was rising. Human ships streaked across the atmosphere, engines blazing, forming lines of defense alongside the fragile Eldari forces. Captain Amina Rhea stood on the bridge of the horizon, eyes locked on the enemy fleet that hovered just beyond the planet's orbit, giant war machines built to destroy everything in their path. These machines, said Dr. Leo Han, voice tight with tension, they're not like anything we've faced before. Entire cities, whole species. They've reduced to dust, Amina clenched her fists. Then it's time they meet something they didn't expect, human courage. We fight not just for ourselves, but for everyone who cannot fight anymore. The humans had learned quickly. Where the Eldari had been cautious, humans were fearless. Their tactics were adaptive, bold, and unpredictable. The war machines fired first, massive beams of energy cutting through the ruined skyline. But human shields and evasive maneuvers kept their forces alive. Every shot fired by the humans was precise, every movement calculated, yet filled with the chaos of ingenuity. On the ground, human squads coordinated with Eldari units. They guided civilians to safety, cleared rubble, and set up defenses around surviving buildings. The Eldari watched in awe as humans risked themselves again and again, moving into danger with a determination that defied reason. Amina's voice cut across the comms. Hold the line. Protect the civilians. Push them back. We fight not just for survival, but for hope. The Eldari had never seen anything like it. Their warriors were strong and skilled, but they had been beaten down by centuries of fear and destruction. Humans, small and fragile by comparison, seemed unstoppable. They fought with energy that inspired courage in all who saw them. Even the children hiding in shelters whispered, "They will save us." The first wave of war machines struck the city's edge, tearing apart streets and buildings, but human forces met them head-on. Engineers had discovered a weakness in the machine's energy cores. Soldiers led by Amina herself coordinated strikes, disabling one machine after another, their courage a beacon in the darkness. In the midst of battle, Amina spotted a group of Eldari civilians trapped beneath the rubble. Without hesitation, she led a small team through the debris, dodging laser fire and falling metal. She lifted a heavy beam from a collapsed building, her arms straining, and called out, "This way." "Keep moving!" The rescued Eldari followed, eyes wide with disbelief. One child, gripping her hand, whispered, "You came for us." "Just like you promised." Amina smiled, exhausted but unwavering. "We promised, and we always keep our promises." Across the battlefield, the humans continued their assault. Their ships swarmed the enemy fleet, using speed and cunning to outmaneuver machines that had terrorized the galaxy for centuries. Alien observers, watching from other star systems, could not believe what they saw. A species so young, so small, had the bravery to face an armada that had defeated empires. As night fell over Eldara, the battle reached its peak. Explosions lit the sky, casting long shadows across the ruined city. Human squads moved tirelessly, refusing to rest, refusing to yield. Every time a machine fell, a cheer went up from both humans and Eldari alike. The impossible was happening. Humanity was turning the tide. Dr. Han, monitoring the battlefield from the horizon, spoke with awe. "Captain, it's incredible. They're inspired by us. The Eldari are rallying. We're giving them hope. Real hope." Amina looked at the flickering horizon, at the fires and chaos, and felt a warmth in her chest. It was not just strategy or firepower that was winning this battle. It was courage, compassion, and the human spirit. They fought not because they had to, but because it was the right thing to do. Hours passed, and slowly, the war machines began to fall back. Their energy cores shattered. Their formations crumbled. The humans had shown them something they had never understood. determination, empathy, and the power of hope. On the ground, survivors emerged from hiding. Elderly children ran toward human soldiers, laughing and crying at the same time. Families were reunited. The sky, still smoky, seemed a little lighter now, filled with the promise of survival. Amina stood on a ruined balcony, looking at the horizon. Her armor was scorched, her face smeared with ash, but her eyes shone with pride. "We did it," she whispered to herself. "We fought. We saved them, and this is just the beginning." Across the city, human and Eldari forces began organizing the survivors. Emergency shelters were set up, medical teams treated the wounded, and messages were sent to distant worlds telling them that help had arrived. The galaxy, which had been silent for so long, was hearing something new, the sound of hope, carried by humans who refused to give up. And somewhere in the dark expanse beyond Eldara, enemies that had once believed the galaxy was theirs alone began to take notice. Humanity had arrived. Humanity had fought. And humanity would not be ignored. The battle over Eldara had ended, but the work had only just begun. The skies were still gray with smoke, and the air carried the scent of ash and burned metal. Yet amid the ruins, a spark of hope glimmered. Humanity had arrived, and their courage had given the Eldari something they had not felt in centuries, a reason to believe that survival was possible. Captain Amina Reyes walked through the streets with her team. Her boots crunched over broken glass and debris, but her eyes were focused on the people around her. Eldari families moved cautiously, some still trembling, but many stared at the humans with a mixture of awe and gratitude. Children ran up, curious and shy, and Amina knelt to meet them at eye level. "We are here to help," she said softly, holding out her hands in friendship. "You are not alone anymore." The words, simple as they were, carried weight. Eldari eyes shimmered with tears. Some whispered prayers of thanks. Some laughed for the first time in months. Humanity had arrived not as conquerors, but as protectors. They had faced impossible odds, and in doing so, they had inspired hope. Across the city, human engineers worked alongside Eldari builders, clearing rubble and repairing structures. Hospitals were established in surviving buildings, providing care for the wounded. Medical teams moved tirelessly, treating injuries and comforting the frightened. Where humans went, hope seemed to follow. Dr. Leo Hahn stood beside Amina, scanning the systems that still remained functional. "It's incredible," he said, voice full of wonder. "The Eldari, they're responding. They're beginning to rebuild, because they can see someone believes in them. Someone actually believes they can survive." Amina nodded. "Hope is stronger than any weapon. Once you have it, nothing can truly defeat you. That is what we are giving them." Word of humanity's arrival spread quickly across the galaxy. Alien civilizations who had long remained silent, paralyzed by fear of the ancient war machines, watched in disbelief. Small ships carrying humans had appeared, fighting and saving, showing a bravery that no one had expected. Reports of their courage traveled faster than light, inspiring races who had resigned themselves to despair. In distant star systems, young aliens whispered stories to their children, of humans who dared to face a deadly enemy with nothing but courage and compassion. Elders sent messages of gratitude and awe. Slowly, the galaxy began to understand that humans were different. They were fragile in appearance, yet unstoppable in spirit. Back on Eldara, Amina stood atop a rebuilt tower, watching the sun rise through lingering smoke. The city was far from whole, but there was life again. People moved through the streets without fear, rebuilding homes, planting gardens, and laughing despite the memories of loss. An Eldari elder approached her, voice trembling with emotion. You have given us more than protection," he said. "You have given us courage. You have reminded us that we are not helpless. For that, we are grateful forever." Amina smiled, though her heart felt heavy with the memories of the battle. "You already had courage," she said. "You survived everything they threw at you. We only helped you remember it." As the days passed, the humans organized patrols to protect Eldara from any remaining threats. Communication networks were restored, allowing distant colonies to receive news of survivors. Relief efforts extended beyond the capital, reaching small villages and remote settlements. Every life saved, every building repaired, every smile returned was a testament to the power of determination. Humans did not seek praise, yet the galaxy noticed. In conference rooms and spaceships far from Eldara, alien leaders whispered, "The humans, they are different. They fight not for power, but for life itself. They are the light in the darkness." Amina gathered her crew in the evening as the sun dipped below the horizon. The sky was painted with orange and red hues, a contrast to the smoke and destruction below. "We came here to answer a cry for help," she said softly. "And in doing so, we've reminded everyone that hope can exist even in the darkest places. That is the real battle, and the real victory." The crew listened, feeling a sense of pride and purpose. They had faced death, chaos, and despair, and yet they had brought life, hope, and courage to a world that had almost given up. Humanity's presence was not just survival, it was inspiration. In the ruins, children ran freely, Eldari families laughed again, and for the first time in decades, the galaxy could see a future where life might flourish. Humanity's light had touched Eldara, and it would continue to spread. Like ripples across a dark pond, somewhere far away, other civilizations began sending signals into space, asking for help, hoping that humans might hear them next. And somewhere in the stars, Amina looked up, feeling the pull of distant cries. Humanity had answered one call. Soon, they would answer many more. The galaxy had witnessed the arrival of humans, and with them came the reminder that courage, hope, and compassion were stronger than any weapon. And in that realization, the galaxy began to believe once again. The galaxy seemed to hold its breath. Beyond the light of Eldara's recovering cities, a massive enemy fleet gathered like a storm waiting to break. Giant war machines, dark and ominous, hovered in space, their weapons poised to finish what they had begun. Captain Amina Reyes stood on the bridge of the horizon, eyes scanning the fleet with a mixture of determination and concern. This was the final stand, the moment the galaxy would either be freed or fall into eternal darkness. "Captain," Dr. Leo Hahn said, his voice tight with tension, "their numbers, they are overwhelming. Entire fleets we've seen before. They would not survive this, yet we must face them." Amina's hands clenched the edge of the console. "We are not just fighting with weapons," she said quietly, almost to herself. "We are fighting with hope, with courage, with everything we believe in, and that is stronger than any fleet." Human ships moved into formation alongside the rebuilt Eldari fleet. Alien races who had witnessed humanity's courage sent messages of encouragement, pledges of support, and offers to join the battle. For the first time, the galaxy felt united, not by fear or power, but by hope inspired by humans. As the enemy fleet advanced, the first volleys of energy cut through space, lighting the void with fire. The humans did not flinch. They maneuvered with precision, their ships smaller and faster than the monstrous machines. Laser blasts and energy shields clashed, filling the darkness with sparks that glittered like stars. On the ground, human and Eldari teams coordinated with precision. Communications were seamless, strategies flexible. Every move was calculated, but every move carried the courage of beings who refused to surrender. Soldiers led squads to protect civilians, medics moved through the chaos, and engineers disabled enemy drones that had slipped through defenses. Amina stood on the horizon, her eyes locked on the largest enemy flagship. It was a fortress in space, towering above the rest, its dark hull gleaming ominously. "That one," she said to her crew. "We take it down and the rest will follow." The fleet surged forward. Human pilots dove fearlessly into enemy fire, dodging beams that could obliterate entire ships. Ground teams synchronized attacks, hitting weak points in the machine's armor. Slowly, steadily, the tide began to turn. Each enemy ship destroyed inspired more courage, not just among humans, but among the Eldari and other allies who had joined the fight. Amid the battle, Amina saw a group of young Eldari soldiers faltering under heavy fire. Without hesitation, she led a human squad to their side. "We fight together," she shouted. "Do not fear. Stand strong." The soldiers steadied, and with the humans by their side, they pushed forward. Together, they destroyed a cluster of war machines, opening a path for civilians to escape. Hours passed, and the enemy fleet faltered. Their formations broke, their attacks became disorganized. Humanity's courage, combined with strategy, unity, and hope, had created a force the enemy could not comprehend. Every ship, every squad, every life they saved, strengthened the belief that the galaxy could resist. Finally, with a decisive strike, the flagship's core was destroyed. A brilliant explosion lit the darkness of space, and the remaining enemy vessels scattered or fell silent. The battle was over. Silence returned. Not a silence of death, but of relief. Across Eldara, survivors emerged from shelters. Eldari children ran freely, laughing and crying at the same time. Families embraced. Humans moved among them, tending to wounds, offering comfort and sharing quiet smiles. They had faced the impossible and survived, and in doing so, they had given the galaxy something far greater than victory: hope. Amina stood on the balcony of a rebuilt tower, watching the horizon. The fires of battle had faded, but the light of courage remained. "We did it," she whispered. "Not just for Eldara, for everyone. We showed the galaxy that life, hope, and courage are stronger than fear." Dr. Han joined her, exhausted but smiling. "They will speak of this for generations," he said. "Not just the humans, but what humans inspired in everyone else. They will remember that courage can move worlds." Amina nodded, looking at the stars. Somewhere far beyond Eldara, other civilizations had watched and begun to believe. The call for help had echoed across light years, and humanity had answered. Not with tyranny or conquest, but with courage, compassion, and an unyielding heart. In that quiet moment, as the sun rose over the recovering city, the galaxy began to dream again. The darkness had been pushed back, not by the strongest weapons, but by the indomitable spirit of a species that refused to give up. Humanity had arrived, and with them hope. The galaxy was quiet now, but it was not the quiet of fear. It was a quiet filled with relief, gratitude, and hope. Across the Eldari system, the survivors rebuilt their homes. Children laughed in the streets, their voices carrying through the broken cities. Families reunited, and the wounds of battle were slowly tended. Humanity had not just saved lives, they had restored belief in a future that many thought impossible. Captain Amina Reyes walked among the people of Eldara, her heart heavy with both pride and sorrow. She had seen the cost of war, lives lost, worlds scarred, and families broken. Yet she had also seen something stronger than destruction: courage, resilience, and hope. The Eldari had survived because someone, humans, had answered their call. An elder approached her, his silver eyes glistening with tears. "You," he said, voice trembling, "you are not like any we have known. You did not come for power. You did not come for control. You came for us." Amina shook her head gently. "We came because it was right. We are humans. We fight not for glory, but for life, for hope, for anyone who cannot fight alone." The elder smiled faintly, and for the first time in centuries, the Eldari truly believed that their species could endure. Across the galaxy, other civilizations who had witnessed humanity's courage whispered in awe. The humans were different. They were fragile yet unyielding, small yet unstoppable. They had fought against impossible odds and shown that compassion, courage, and determination were the galaxy's greatest weapons. From Eldara's rebuilt towers, humans and Eldari looked up at the stars together. Signals from distant worlds, once silent in despair, now carried messages of gratitude and pleas for help. They hoped that humanity might hear them, as they had heard the Eldari. And humanity would answer. That was the promise that now traveled across the galaxy. Where hope was lost, humans would come. On the bridge of the horizon, Amina stood with her crew, looking out into the endless expanse of stars. "We are not heroes," she said softly, almost to herself. "We are simply humans, doing what must be done." Her crew smiled, though they were exhausted. They had seen death, destruction, and chaos, yet they had endured. Together they had faced the impossible, fought the unthinkable, and inspired hope across an entire star system. Below, in the streets of Eldara, children played beside the ruins of their old homes. Eldari mothers taught them to tend gardens again. Eldari fathers rebuilt workshops and schools, and everywhere humans worked alongside them, guiding, teaching, protecting, and inspiring. Humanity had brought more than survival. They had brought life itself. As night fell over Eldara, the stars shone brightly above, clear and sparkling for the first time in decades. In the darkness, signals from countless civilizations reached the human sensors. A cry for help here, a call for aid there. Civilizations who had given up hope now dared to dream again. And somewhere in the quiet, Captain Amina smiled, knowing that humanity's journey was only beginning. The Eldari had named the humans light bearers. Across the galaxy, stories spread of these beings who answered the cries of the helpless, who faced overwhelming odds without fear, and who fought not for themselves, but for life itself. The name carried weight. Wherever despair rose, wherever darkness threatened, humans would be remembered as the ones who brought hope. Amina knelt beside a small Eldari child, holding its tiny hand. "You see," she said gently, "no matter how dark it gets, there is always hope. Someone will come for you, and if no one comes, then we do." The child's eyes shone with trust, and Amina felt a warmth in her chest. It was more than hope, it was a bond, a promise, and a responsibility. Humanity had answered one cry, and now across the galaxy they would continue to answer many more. From distant planets, fleets of humans and allies prepared to move out, carrying aid, supplies, and protection. The galaxy had seen the strength of humans, not in weapons alone, but in courage, compassion, and unity. Across worlds once silent in despair, messages were sent, "You are not alone. Humanity is coming." Amina stood once more on the observation deck of the horizon. Looking at the stars stretching into infinity, she whispered, "We are just humans, but together we are unstoppable. Wherever there is need, wherever there is despair, we will go. We will fight. We will protect. We will inspire." And in that moment across the galaxy, hope was no longer fragile. It was alive. It was enduring. Humanity had arrived. Humanity had shone. And in every star, in every world, the echo of their courage would be remembered forever. The galaxy would never be the same. Humanity had cried out, answered, and proven that even the smallest beings could light the darkest night. They had shown that life, courage, and hope were the true power of the universe. Humanity had come. Humanity had stayed, and the galaxy would never forget.